Okay, it's going to be the assistant portion. This is going to be part 2. As you can see, it's plugged in. So you've got the green light. Transmitter is on as well. And you'll notice down here at the bottom, you'll see it says the MC output is off. So you're good not to have any power going. Okay, so first one here is going to be mounting. That's just where you have your GPS position. Mine's -3, 6, and -10. And that's just based on the orientation of your where your compass is in regards to the center of gravity and on your frame. Got the motor mix. This is just going to be how leave this alone. I'm using obviously the quad setup right here, as you can see, recommended. Just doing the standard. Didn't change anything there. This is the stick input. I'm using S.bus, so you want to pick the D.bus. I've already calibrated the stick input, so moving the sticks around, everything, you'll notice it goes according. So everything is, you see everything is normal here. That was in the very first video where I had the channels reversed and normal reverse. You'll notice X1 here. This is the one that you're going to notice correlates with the gain. So that was the, I have my gain set up here, my LD knob. So when I twist this left and right, it increases and decreases. Now this is where you've got your manual, and I'm going to do that 3-position switch I had, which is right here. Okay, I've got my SC for 3-position switch. And this is what you always want to get. You want to have it in manual. You want to see it switch to alt. You also want to see it go into GPS. Now here's the kicker. The other setup that we did with the SF switch, the 2-position toggle, where you're going to have the master-slave setup, you're going to want to notice if when I'm in GPS I can flip that one switch, goes into failsafe. Okay, now when I go back down to altitude mode, once again, goes to failsafe. When I go down to manual, goes into failsafe. Okay, so that's going to be an important part of the mixing, and we'll show the reason for that process there. Voltage, gimbal, autopilot. This is the gain value. So this is why I have everything assigned to X1, because I have that LD knob on X1. So when I lower that LD knob, so on the fly I can manually change my gain to whatever I choose. I do leave the yaw and vertical inhibited. I'm only changing pitch and roll, and then the attitude gains here for pitch and roll as far as basic gain. So I have that set up on X1. I do have the return to home versus landing. The only time I select landing is if I'm flying and following for some reason, say a vehicle, and something happens. You don't want it to try and go all the way back where you started. So basically that's the only time you'd put it to landing, in my opinion. I'm not using the intelligent orientation control, so we won't even look at that. So let's take a look at the system here. Okay, I wanted to go over the failsafe. Okay, now the failsafe, basically, what I do is I watch the stick position. I know minimum Naza needs 10%, so I just bump it up to about right here. That's my throttle, so I just bump it up to about right here. Anywhere above 10%. And when it's you can see where it's moved up there on the stick. So when you go in here and you want to do this, you'll take it off hold, put it on failsafe. You come here and you just hit the return button. You hold it for a second, and it will lock that position. That's simply it. That's how you can get that 10% for Naza requirement. Okay, once you're done with that, what you can do here is you want to go to your next screen. Now gear channel. This is where you want to go into failsafe. So what you want to do is, now right now it's reading manual. The reason why this is reading manual is because I've already got that 78% of my endpoint. So you're going to need to find the endpoint and change your endpoint for the gear channel first to make sure that it registers in manual. And I'm actually going to bounce around a little bit. I'm going to show you this here because that's going to be the first start. So you're going to notice here, I'm going to put this back at 100. Okay. Notice at 100, it's not registered. So I'm going to roll this back to 78. That's why. Okay, so that's why you're going to want to have that gear changed so that it actually registers manual. So that when you flip this, it registers your manual, altitude, and GPS. So by changing that endpoint, or not the endpoint, sorry, the travel, not the limit. So it's travel versus limit in the endpoint. That's what's going to get you to actually register correctly on this system. Okay, so that's there. Now when you want to make sure that you do a fail-safe to turn your transmitter off, this is where you're going to want to do this. Okay, so when you turn your transmitter off, you want to make sure that it reads fail-safe. So what you basically do, I'm going to see I'm lowering this right now. I'm going to continue to lower it until it's in fail-safe. I'm just going to go right in the middle. So right now it's about 35. So this is where you're going to go back. Since it's in fail-safe, you're going to go back to your fail-safe. And I remember I left that gear channel at 35. And you'll do the same thing. So you'll hit to turn from hold to fail-safe. And once again, you'll hold that return button down for a second. It will beep and lock that position. So it locks that fail-safe position for when the transmitter gets turned off. And one thing you want to remember to do, you want to go back to your endpoints. You're going to want to change that. Okay, so I know I've already done this, so since I know that's a tech, I'm going to go ahead and turn the transmitter off, and what you're going to see is you're going to see manual go right into failsafe. You're also going to see your bump up of minimum throttle per Naza requirement. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the transmitter off here. Boom. So what it does is it automatically goes into failsafe, minimum 10% throttle for Naza. So that way if you lose the signal, your transmitter turns off, you're safe. And when I flip it back on, you're back set, okay? Now this is where we're going to go into I guess we'll go into the more in-depth, the program, the mixing, where you've got your master and slave. Okay, and this is where basically you're going to have to, you want this endpoint here, when you want to be able to get into failsafe, when you first start out, you flip that switch, it's going to not go into failsafe. So what you want to do is you want to put it in, leave it in manual, you flip it into failsafe, you're going to come here, and you're going to start adjusting your endpoints. Okay? Let me get back to the screen here real quick. Okay, so for manual, it's going to be the position 5. And you'll notice that when I start scrolling here, when I first started, that's where it was, at 0. So what I did is you roll it to the left, you lock that position. That way you know when you're in failsafe, your manual is going to be it. Okay? And you'll flip up to your altitude. Now mine's already in failsafe, but what you're going to do then, you're going to bump down to here. So position 3 is going to be the middle failsafe. So that's going to start out at 0. You're going to scroll that until you get it into that failsafe position. Okay, same thing. When you come up here and you go into your GPS mode, leave failsafe on. And that's when you're going to come down to your first position. You again want to get in that failsafe. Now at first this is going to be all the way over here off the grid. Now it's still going to register failsafe, which is fine. But I wanted to make sure that I had everything in there, and Kavi hooked me up and kind of got me off on the right track with this, so big thanks to Kavi for getting me to get it back to the actual failsafe. I'm a big stickler for making sure that no matter what I'm in, I can get failsafe, failsafe, failsafe. So I'm covered on all forced failsafes and covered on signal loss and failsafe. Then we'll we'll go back into this screen here again. Once again, you need to activate it, put it to the switch you assign it. I assign it to the SF switch up there. So that's that. You're going to have gear, link is off, trim's off, and that's the program mix to get you into all the fail-safes. So, if you guys have any questions on any of the steps to get everything working correctly, any questions on the calibrations, anything further you're looking for as far as these menus go, or any hookup, feel free to leave a message.